So good morning, everyone. I'm Luís Correia. I'm with the IST, the Technical University of Lisbon in Portugal. And I'm really going to make a shift in the topics that are being addressed now, in the sense that SAIL is about technology. SAIL is about developing the technologies for the networks, for the internet. But we are addressing also some of the social and economic concerns. So that's why, in a way, we are also here. So I just briefly present you what the project is about, and let's say where does it come from, the technical areas we are involved, and then also very briefly presenting you what we are addressing as far as the socioeconomic aspects in the project. So SAIL is one of what's called IP, one of these integrated projects in the European Commission framework. In the Networks of the Future area. It's 25 partners, it's almost the funding, almost 13 million euros, and it has 2.5 years duration. It's somehow the follow-up of another project that finished so SAIL just started last August, it's about to make 1 year, and it somehow is the follow-up of another project, which was Forward, also a large project, a large IP, which was also for 2.5 years. Forward was basically proposing to have a clean slate approach for the technologies for the future internet. So starting from scratch, basically. And in SAIL, let's say we picked a few of these technologies to develop further and to implement, to have some experimentation already, some prototyping, and so on and so forth. So what are the technical areas that we are addressing in SAIL? One of them is cloud networking. So basically in here we are putting together the cloud computing aspects with the network virtualization together. People talk a lot about cloud computing, but they forget, let's put it this way, they forget that you need networks to connect everything. And this brings a bunch of whole new problems that need to be addressed. So let's say briefly this is what cloud networking is about and what some of the things that we are addressing in this work package. A second technical work package is about network of information. And very briefly, let's say that instead of using IP addresses, which anyway will disappear in a few years, we'll be using object identifiers. So this means that all the information will be addressed by an identifier of each object and not by the address of the server or something like that. And this also brings a lot of new problems from the technical viewpoint, obviously, and others connected to what just heard from the previous speaker. And in here, this also means that the information will be spread around the network, will be hosted in many services inside the network, so as part of, let's call it operators or whatever you want to call it. So these are some of the aspects that we are addressing in this second work package, the network of information. The third one is open connectivity. I would call it the more technological one from the three, in the sense that is really addressing almost pure technological stuff, like protocols, virtualization of radio networks, on how to route the information inside the networks, but it also addresses other things, like if you want to have your wireless Wi-Fi access point in your home, and when you switch it on, it automatically configures with the rest of the network, and you can use it integrated in the rest of the network, like you can use these days the base stations from a cellular network or any other network you may be using. So it kind of puts together a lot of these, let's say, technology services or open connectivity services, we call it in this work package. So these are, very briefly, the technical areas we are addressing in this project. But then we are also looking at, as I mentioned before, we are also looking at the socioeconomic aspects that are related with these technologies. And basically, we are addressing three topics in here. One is what we call the intangible aspects, which is clearly related with what we just heard. So not about
the technology, but the impact of the technology on the end user and the other way around. The second one is about the business models, so the new business models that can come up from these new ways of looking at the networks and building the networks and running the networks, and the new players, the new stakeholders that are coming up with the new architectures for the networks. And the third are the regulatory aspects. So of course this brings a whole new list of things that need to be dealt with. Not only the privacy, but who owns the information, many of the things that have already been addressed today. So what we have is a fourth work package dealing with these socioeconomic aspects that is being linked with the other three, and then we are putting together some information. In the end, we would like to have also inputs to standardization and migration, in the sense that one of the things also that we are looking at is on how to migrate the current networks to the future ones, which may not be an easy task, but still. The main objectives of this socioeconomic work package is, as you can read in here, to understand success factors, and also what may be the constraints of the business models, and also look at evolution scenarios and use cases. We set up quite a number of use cases and scenarios that are being used in here. Also to understand what are the potential bottlenecks for the new players in this business, and how we can go around them in the sense how we can deal with them, and also looking and interacting with regulatory bodies. We have been interacting with not only the regulatory bodies in some countries like Sweden and Finland, for example, but also at the level of the European Commission. And the idea here is to give some feedback, again, to interact with the people of the other work packages that are developing these technologies. So as I mentioned before, in each of the work packages, we have developed a set of scenarios and use cases, really from two perspectives. One is really looking at the end user. So again, very much related with some of the things that we had already this morning. And on the second level, looking at the pure technological and enterprise aspects. So how companies can relate to each other and what kind of new business relationships can appear in these new architectures for the future internet. We have identified three major dimensions for creating these scenarios and the impacts they have. One is the mobility. So the mobility of users, which of course is an old stuff coming from mobile phones and all that, but still it's one of the major dimensions that needs to be addressed when we address the new architectures for these networks. The second one is video. Video in the largest extent of the word, in the sense that we are all becoming prosumers, like producing and consuming information, and this has a huge impact on the networks as well. Probably some of you don't know, but today networks are built that the data rate in the download, on average, is probably 10 times more than the one we have in the uplink. So if we are all becoming prosumers, this means that we need to have a balanced connection in the up and down links. So these kind of things, they have an impact on how you structure the network. And the flash crowd means that you need to have, for, let's say, for ad hoc networks for people, that people just meeting here and they establish a network, ad hoc network that will just exist for the duration of the day. And you need capacity to be put in here. You need means for hosting information, for distributing information. And this is, like, I would say, the novel or the most novel aspect that we are looking in these scenarios. So again, what we are looking is the trends and uncertainties we have identified really for these work packages. Again, trends and uncertainties concerning the political and regulatory aspects. And we are doing this with the goal, let's say, of 2020 as a year that is the target for the time being, at least.
The economic and business aspects, again, the trends and uncertainties in this area, the social ones, and of course, the technical issues as well. We came up with this basic element that we are using to build let's say, the architectures, and also to use to exchange information in between the technical and the non-technical work packages. So there are things which are purely technical, as you can see, like the technical interface. So of course it's how information is flowing from one network to another, and so on and so forth. But then we have also created or identified business interfaces, in the sense who's paying whom, and who's delivering to whom, and all these kind of things. So we're trying to put together, again, the technical and the non-technical aspects when addressing these issues for the networks of the future. Identifying the roles and the stakeholders of all the people, or the companies and entities involved in these, and so on. So I think this are my last 10 minutes that I've finished just. So I just try to give you a glimpse of what the SAIL project is about. If you want more information, you can go to the SAIL website, and there is one of the pages in the portal that has all the deliverables. As far as I know, if not all, almost all the deliverables are public. So you can get all the information there, and the things that I just highlighted in here are 2 or 3 deliverables that are already available at the website. Thank you very much.
Time for a quick question or two? There.
Magnus from Interactive Institute here. Just connecting back to the last presentation, how do you think that a future internet of this kind would, these issues of filtering and freedom of expression, would that be an issue separated from the architectural issue, or do you think there will be, does the architecture have to take those into concern, sort of the potentialities of ease of filtering or something like that? Yeah.
I think these are clearly inputs to be taken, and the other way around, outputs to be taken as well. In the sense that if you have distributed information, like there is already today, I mean, there's no new thing in here, but if you have distributed information, for example, in the sense that the same content is cached in different servers, then of course, if you want to prevent people from accessing this information, it's not that easy, because you need to identify all the servers, all the points where this information is stored. So, of course, there are implications and there are interactions in between the policies that you may have on assessing information, on filtering information on one hand, and the architectures that you are going to use for the future. That's for sure.